Ah, hello there! You're just in time for a Christmas story. Come, come, grab a nice cup of hot cocoa and warm up by the fire. What's that? Oh, it doesn't matter how old you are. This is a story that everyone can enjoy, children and adults alike. Now come, and listen closely, as I tell you the story about the true meaning of Christmas. It was a Christmas Eve like any other. Glittering white snow covered the ground, and the air was filled with joyous glee, and everyone was getting ready for the big day to come. Except for one person, John. John was doing what he had been doing for the past 5 years, sitting on a local bench and asking anyone who walked by if they could spare some change, of which he had managed to collect $3.62, and was beginning to wonder if he would be able to survive another winter. However, this Christmas Eve would be different for John, as he would soon be approached by a mysterious man. This man was on his way home to his family from grocery shopping when he noticed John sitting alone, and so he went up to John. The man kindly introduced himself, and the two began to chat. "Why are you sitting here alone this Christmas Eve?" the man asked. "I have nowhere to go and nobody to go home to, I'm afraid. Most of my family's dead, and the local shelter has closed down," John replied. As the two continued to talk, the man asked how John ended up in this position, John kindly telling his story of how his family was always poor, living day to day and check to check. "And even though we were always on the verge of bankruptcy," John said, "we always had each other. Until we didn't." John's words moved the man, and without even a second thought, he said to John, "How would you like to come celebrate Christmas with me and my family, and then stay the night out of this cold weather?" "But I do not celebrate Christmas," John replied. The man asked why, and John responded softly, "Well, I am an atheist." "Why does it matter?" the man asked with a smile. "Why would you want someone like me in your house, with your family?" The man began to laugh with jolly, and after he'd calmed down managed to say, "You don't have to be religious to celebrate Christmas, and my family would love to have someone like you join us." John, knowing he would not let up, agreed to join the man this Christmas Eve, and the two walked to the man's house. After 30 minutes walking to the man's house, the two men quickly raced inside to get away from the blaring cold outside. They brushed off their coats covered in snow, but before they could hang them up, they were suddenly attacked by the man's children. The daughter asked their father who this strange man was that he'd brought into their home, and the father responded, "This is my new friend I just met today. He's going to be joining us for dinner." The son looked strangely at John and asked, "Why do you smell funny?" John gave a nervous chuckle and responded, "Well, unfortunately, I haven't been able to shower for the past couple of days," he said with embarrassment. The son looked at his father and said, "Dad, why do I have to take a shower, but this smelly man doesn't?" The man burst out laughing. "Son, I'm sure if he could take a shower, he would. And don't be disrespectful. His name is John, not Smelly Man. Now apologize and properly greet him." The boy turned back to John and said, "I'm sorry. It's nice to meet you, John." "It's quite all right. I admire your honesty, and it's a pleasure to meet you," John kindly responded. Immediately after that sentence, the man's wife entered from the kitchen. "Who are you talking—" She looked at John with hesitation, surprised that her husband had let in a total stranger to their home. She quickly put her thoughts aside and welcomed John into her home. Shortly after getting John settled in, the wife pulled her husband away for a moment to speak to him. "Why didn't you tell me you were bringing someone home? I don't know if we have enough food for him," she whispered softly. "I'm sorry. We were trying to outrun the snow, so I didn't have much time to call you. But please, don't kick him out. He has nowhere to go for Christmas. I just want to give him a place to stay for the night." "Of course he can stay. We're not putting him out in the cold on Christmas Eve. I'm just worried we don't have enough food to feed him. Did you remember to get everything? The peaches? The green beans?" "Yes, of course. And what about the apple pie?" "Must have slipped my mind. I'm sorry, honey." "It's fine. It's only dessert. Let's get ready for dinner, okay?" she said with a sigh. The husband nodded. Unfortunately, John had overheard everything the two had said from the other room. Not wanting to be seen as a burden to them, he began to put on his coat and boots to quickly leave the household. Before he could even open the door, however, he was stopped by the man's wife. "Where do you think you're going?" she said, concerned. John politely responded, I don't wish to be a bother to you or to your family any longer. I'll just let myself out. Please tell your husband I appreciate his kindness to me." The moment he opened the door, though, John was pushed back by a massive gust of freezing air outside and quickly closed the door. "Well, you definitely aren't leaving with that kind of weather. You aren't a bother to us, we just weren't expecting to have you is all. We will be honored to have you as our guest tonight." And after giving it some thought, John begrudgingly accepted to stay. Dinner was finally served at the man's house. There was ham and peaches, homegrown potatoes and gravy, green beans and honey carrots. The family and John filled their plates with food and sat down at the kitchen table. John, eager to eat after having nothing all today, was about to chow down when he was stopped by... He looked over and saw the daughter's hand reaching out to take his. "We always pray before eating," she whispered. "Oh, I don't please," she replied before John could finish his sentence. The father looked up quietly. "She won't stop until you say yes." John looked at the little girl and, knowing he could not disobey her orders, took her hand and they prayed. The father prayed that only good things would come to those who are needing it this Christmas season, and that everyone will find joy and happiness in whatever way they can. He prayed to those who are stuck in the cold this night to find shelter, warmth, and food for their bellies. And lastly, the father prayed for John, and that he will find his way, and that he will find his Christmas spirit. Amen. And so the family ate. The children went on and on about what they were going to do when Santa showed up, talking about how they were setting a trap for him. Meanwhile, the father was telling Christmas-related dad jokes, and the mother was simply shaking her head in response. Although John did not say much during the entire dinner, one could notice what appeared to be a smile forming on his face, and for even the briefest moment, he appeared happy. After dinner had wrapped up, the father put his children to sleep, while John helped the man and his wife clean the dishes. After cleaning up, the man allowed John to lay on the couch for the night, giving him some blankets and a pillow to keep him cozy, and so everyone went to bed. During the middle of the night, John awoke from his slumber. Feeling too warm to fall back asleep, he put on his coat and boots and went outside to the front porch to cool off. To his surprise, the strange man was out there as well. "Ah, hello there. Were you planning on taking off again?" he said as a joke. No, John responded. "I just need some fresh air is all." "Understandable. It can get pretty hot in there. Luckily the storm has finally calmed down," the man said. After some silence, John finally decided to say, "I think I'll leave in the morning, though." Shocked by what he had said, the man replied, "You won't join us for Christmas tomorrow? Or at least say bye to the kids?" John simply responded with, "I think I've been pitied enough for one day, and like I said, I don't celebrate Christmas." The man had a look of confusion on his face, and without thinking said, "You think we took you in because we pitied you? God, no. In all honesty, I saw a bit of myself in you." John also gained a look of confusion and said, "How so?" The man took a moment to collect his thoughts and, after a minute of thinking, finally answered, "My family is not the richest in the world, as you probably already noticed. We barely get by as it is. Hell, I usually have enough money to buy the kids each one Christmas present, and that's because I start saving up from September. And that apple pie I forgot? I didn't actually forget it. After spending the money on buying the presents and the food, I honestly had no money left over to buy it, save from the spare change in my pocket." John, now with a shocked expression on his face, said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." The man responded, "It's okay. How could you have? You see, when you told me that you don't celebrate Christmas, I believed it's because you don't know the true meaning of it. Most people will tell you it's to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, or that it's to spend time with your family, or even to give, rather than get. And all of those people are true for the most part. But I believe there's something more. I believe that Christmas is meant to be a time where for a single day, you don't have to be troubled by the worries of life. That for one day, you can find joy and happiness in any way that you can, wherever you can. Whether it be spending time with your family, exchanging gifts with loved ones, or even helping a homeless man find joy during a time where he usually can't." John looked at this man as he spoke words that came straight from his heart and said to him, "Thank you." Without saying another word to one another, the two men went back to bed for the night. When the man woke up that morning, his children had woke him up from his slumber. They were cheering of how Santa had visited their home and left them Christmas presents under the tree. The man followed them into the living room, but found that John was gone, with his blankets folded up. As he looked up, he saw that there was an apple pie on the counter with a note from John, thanking the man for his kindness and for teaching him the joys of the holidays. The pie John bought for that man's family was $3.62. Although John was never seen again by the man who'd shown him kindness, many say that that Christmas and that every Christmas afterwards were ones filled with joy from John, for he had finally learned the true meaning of Christmas. The end.